And you just in time for your only point of call on matters political and governance analysis here in Kenya and across the region. I'm Richard Mwenje. Such a distinct privilege to have your company with us today. As usual, we take deep dive into conversations that are shaping Kenya's political landscape. And who better to bring such conversations home than this firebrand, Kenya's most sought after political analyst, the first of his name, Vihiga's biggest expert, Herman Manyora. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm okay, John.
You are well?
I'm very well, I thank God.
So much is happening in the country. Your friend, His Excellency Raila Odinga, finally, heads of state coming together to launch his bid for the AUC position.
Yeah.
You are missing in the picture, never attended it, but it's okay. But my question is,
yes.
looking at the pomp around the launch, are you somewhat convinced that this is going to be a walkover for Raila Odinga?
I think it does look and appear to me like he's gotten it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has?
Yeah.
But then again, the question is...
The game became too big for the small players.
But in the event that he loses...
They tossed the ball so high, these other small players could not reach it. It will become big business.
Not even Djibouti's Yusuf?
No. It's beyond them. The game is too big for them.
So it's coming home?
Yeah, that one. This is already gone.
But in the unlikely event, from your optic, that it doesn't go the Raila way,
yes,
what options are left for him on the table?
Raila is not a man who can be scared about such small things.
Even at a time when Gen Z say...
I am telling you, Raila lost elections, or whatever it is you can call. Mm-hmm. People around him, people are not eating. Raila was just eating. I could witness it. I couldn't believe. Life was just normal to him.
It was normal to him because he has always enjoyed...
I could see the agony. I could feel it. I could touch the agony of the people around him. But he was just there stable. So losing AAU is nothing. You can't compare losing the AAU seat to losing the presidential election, losing in quotes. It must have been terrible to lose the election in 2007.
He might take it in...
And last year, and 2022 and 2017. It must have been hard for Raila. And he was able to take that within his stride. So losing AU would be nothing to Raila. But he's not going to lose. He'll get it.
But in the past, he has lost all these presidential bids, but came back to the open arms of his organic followers. But this time round, by and large, his organic followers were comprised mainly of the Gen Zs. And now they are saying Raila has got all these things, has ripped from their blood, which was shed on the streets. Don't you think he'll have no one to walk into this time round, or at least a paltry section?
On the face of it, Raila has lost his support base. Apart from a few die-hard supporters, mainly from Luo Nyanza, a majority of his supporters have gone. Gone with the wind, never to come back. But Raila ni nani? You know, Raila it's difficult to understand Raila. He can turn all that around and see. But for now, if you are to put at random 100 supporters of Raila, at random, just put them somewhere, more than 70% will have nothing to do with him. That's really bad for a politician. But Raila ni nani? Raila can turn that around.
There's wiggle room for him to make a second impression?
Raila can. Raila is a man you can't understand in politics.
Can he do that without the help of William Ruto, whom they are now in the same room?
He doesn't need anybody. Can do it.
Let's further the conversation about in the event that Raila goes to AUC. Yes. The only option that is left in under Azimio, who looks somewhat more potential or more stronger than the rest, is Kalonzo Musyoka. But many people are decrying that Kalonzo Musyoka is not a man you can associate him with firm standing, firm belief on certain causes. Do you think there's need for Azimio to now look for a better candidate, or at least recalibrate Kalonzo to make sure that he's positioned very well for 2027 to take the baton?
The option for Azimio beyond Kalonzo does not exist. For Azimio, it is Kalonzo, unless he says no. As to whether he's the man they are looking for to wrestle Ruto, that's another story. Yes, they can work on him to improve. They can push him harder. It is all possible, but that's all Azimio has for now. Yes.
Conversation
unless
around...
Raila comes back.
Unless he comes back.
Raila can come back. Either he can lose a AU seat, or even get it and abandon it. I've told you Raila is not a man you understand easily. The enigma is the enigma.
A section of the political class believe that the game plan for Kalonzo is to get Gachagua by his side come 2027, so that they now be Gachagua, Kalonzo versus Ruto and Raila, because it is said Raila Odinga has come into the picture as a stumbling block for Rigathi Gachagua when it comes to succession politics. Do you believe that that will be a lethal combination for Ruto and Raila?
It's a dangerous card.
It is?
If Mount Kenya people got annoyed with Ruto and decided to support Kalonzo, it will be very hard for Raila and Ruto.
And how true is the conversation that Raila phobia is starting to creep back in Mount Kenya region after he joined the government?
Yeah, not many Kenyans like what Raila has done. That's the truth. Yeah. So Mount Kenya is not alone. It's just that many Kenyans are not happy with what Raila has done. Yeah.
Then other quarters are keen to understand, especially from a political pundit like you, who is behind this strong blow that is Jimmy Wanjigi in the political scene. He's the talk of town currently, and he's shaping opinion in that space. There are those who believe that the handwriting of Uhuru Kenyatta is behind Jimmy's Wanjigi expose of the messes in the government. Do you believe Wanjigi is a man of his own salt, worth his own salt?
I have said repeatedly, there's something between Ruto, Uhuru, and Jimmy Wanjigi. They have their own story. Let them keep their own story to themselves. So I don't know whether Uhuru supports Jimmy. Chances are Uhuru is more likely to work with Gachagua than Jimmy.
The same Gachagua who fought Uhuru?
Yes. It will be more impactful. We're talking about impact. Uhuru, if he wants to avenge, if he wants to deal with Ruto, he will do so via Gachagua more than via Jimmy Wanjigi. Jimmy Wanjigi should chart a path, a solo path. But like I've said repeatedly, and like I've told him even in person, he needs to up his game. He needs to join the Super League.
And which is the easiest way to get to the first step of that, of achieving that?
Of getting the Super League?
Yeah.
It's to talk to people like us, hire us. We are looking for jobs now.
You're now a free agent?
Yeah, no, I'm a consultant. If he hires me, because these people are hiring wazungus and paying them millions of dollars, not shillings. And those wazungus cannot even do a quarter of what some of us can do.
Maybe it's because
so we want to be tough now. We want people to hire us also now. We want to be paid.
It could be that they find Mutahi Ngunye, the likes of Mutahi Ngunye, to be above your league.
No.
He's been consulted by many of these players.
You know, sometimes it's a question of perception, it's a question of luck. It is a combination of many things. But I think we can offer quality services.
You can do that.
We can prepare candidates. Seriously. Yeah.
And now for players under Azimio, that is people like Kipruto Arap Kiru under DAP Kenya, Eugene Wamalwa, would you say that this is the right time for them maybe to get out of the coalition, probably get into a new one, or at least get into a different party outfit?
I don't think this time, if you asked me, I don't think this time it is about coalitions or parties or anything like that, no. Looking at the political ecosystem we are now in, I think to deal with Ruto and Raila, people need to create a wave, a move. A national movement against what Ruto and Raila are doing. So it will bring many of these leaders together in that movement. With the time, as we get close to the election, the flag bearer will emerge. But it must be something akin to 2002. The aborted change, the change which Kibaki aborted. Where Kenyans were excited that for the first time it's not going to be an individual. It is going to be a team of Kenyans drawn from across the country.
Sure.
We had the summit, which had people like Saitoti, Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila Odinga, Mudavadi, Kijana Wamalwa,
Charity
Ngilu. If that team had taken charge of this country, I don't think Kenya will be waiting. This Kenya will be a different country.
It would?
Oh, and we can do it again. So 2027 must be 2002 reborn. where it shouldn't be Jimmy Wanjigo or Kalonzo Musyoka or no. Let them just create a movement against what Ruto and Raila are doing. Because these two are trying to stand between Kenya and change. Kenya stands on threshold of history. Kenya is about to change. But the political leadership led by Ruto and Raila are resisting that change. And the change is good for everybody, including Ruto and including Raila. Because it will be a better country. It will be easier to govern. It will be sweeter to be president in that Kenya. So if these gentlemen and women move together with one purpose, common to all, and with Kenyans behind them, including the Gen Zs, removing Ruto and Raila will be like a cup of tea.
And how
but if they begin to concentrate, who is it? Kalonzo? Is it Eugene Wamalwa? Is it
Okiya Omtata?
Okiya Omtata? Or is it Matiang'i? Or is it Martha Karua?
Ruben Kigame?
Ruben Kigame? They will be licked.
But when it comes
Ruto will have them for breakfast.
It would be a walkover.
None of them. It will be very difficult for them. Extremely difficult. So they just have to go the way Kenya went in 2002, because there's so much that can rally Kenyans together. There's so much Kenyans really hate about what's going on. And these Kenyans who are suffering and angry and annoyed and bitter and hurting, these Kenyans can move in the one direction with the leadership of that movement. At some point, one of them will be the presidential flag bearer. Two, the others will be part of that government. In a way, Kenyans had envisaged change in 2002, which Kibaki aborted, for which I really hate him. But may he continue resting in eternal peace. So the idea is, let us say it is Kalonzo whom they pick finally. All these other people should be part of that government.
The Karuas.
In a charter, there should be a charter that brings them together and binds them with the people of Kenya, a covenant, which nobody can, because we have the history, we know what Kibaki did. It should be something nobody can go against. So that if it's Kalonzo, he can't turn his and say no. It is so fixed, it's fixed in such a way. Secondly, there is a possibility that this country is going to change the constitution. Not necessarily to get the constitution I would love to have, but a constitution that embraces the political realities of the day, which is a restructured government. So that will really help the other side more than the Ruto Raila side. Because then in our panga wote kwa hiyo serikali, president, deputy president, prime minister, deputy prime minister, deputy prime minister, and they are all these, they wanted to share. If you have like a government that puts together 12 top opposition leaders in charge of the country, you can't get it wrong.
That is it.
So long as people like us are there and we craft the agreement, we craft the deal, so that it's a watertight deal. Watertight.
Binding covenant.
Binding. And it is structurally, it is structurally binding, so that you don't even need to look at what's written in paper. Yes.
Very well. Lastly, sir, let me ask you, in the architecture of this movement that you say Kalonzo and those who have remained as should craft, what should be the cornerstone of this movement, and what how integral is the place of Gen Z in that in the architecture of that movement?
These old men must birth a new Kenya for the Gen Zs and the millennials. If I was part of the deal, we must hand over this country to our children. We've come to a time in the history of our country when we must pass on the baton to the millennials and the Gen Zs. If you look at even what's happening in Europe, you look at the young politicians in Europe, look at the young people, women and men, young, in charge of countries now in Europe. That is the direction to go. So this agenda should be simple. To get power from the oligarchs, to get power from the system, to get power from the political power brokers, from the political barons, from the men who have held the country hostage and captive, to get power from that club and transfer that power to the people whose future this country is about. And that's the Gen Zs and the millennials. So how do you do it? Because you cannot say, let's remove Ruto and Raila and put there a 22-year-old person. It's possible, but this is Kenya. This is Africa. So let the Kalonzos take this, but with a sure undertaking that they are doing it and holding it in trust for the future generations. How do we do that? We make sure, and I wish I really am part of that movement, we make sure over 70% of MCAs are no older than 35 years old. If you are 40 years and you are an MCA, you must be the oldest MCA.
Countrywide?
Yeah, countrywide. So the language in county assemblies ni lugha ya vijana tu. Mbogi tu ndio wako hapo, MCA. Karibu wote. We make sure that in the National Assembly, over 40% of MPs are below 40 years. This is quite doable. In exchange of that, then they will support us to be president and take leadership for 5-10 years. You see?
Sure.
They will trust us that we will hand over this government, this country to them in another 5-10 years. If they started the journey by being the majority in the elective bodies. Yes.
That would be it.
Oh, that's a game changer. In fact, they will support that team in a way. Ruto and Raila will be lucky to get 35% of the votes. They will be very lucky to get 35%. It will be a landslide. And now because we will be taking their country, reclaiming it for them. You young people, this is your country. We are reclaiming it for you. First, almost all MCS will be young people.
Youthful.
50 or so percent of National Assembly will be made of. Cabinet will have more than 50% people below 40 years. Cabinet. It is a covenant we write down, Kapsa, and we help the youth to win those seats. Not just talk. No. If Wiper is the dominant party and we are giving Kalonzo president, we say, Kalonzo, look at your MPs. If anybody is beyond 40, tell him to go home. We can give him another job. That seat of his, which is a sure Wiper seat, tunapatia a millennial or a Gen Z. In support, in exchange for our support, ask your people, do they value the MCA seat more than the president? So we will work at that push until an overwhelming majority of the leadership of this country is young.
You are now advising Azimio core principals who've been left out of the Ruto-Raila deal, yes, and particularly for Kalonzo Musyoka and others who might be living in fear that we might not have the financial muscle to outdo Raila.
At that time, you don't need money.
You don't need money then?
In that direction, don't need money. I'm telling you, we are taking Gen Zs to county assemblies and to parliament, in exchange to which they'll provide the presidential vote. You don't need money.
So handouts.
Even them to go to even them, those millennials and Gen Zs, to become MPs, they will not use any money. You don't need money. Mufanye nomination yenyu kwa ground, ule mnatupatia Hamisi, ndio tutafanya MP for Hamisi.
So Raila Ruto,
I'm there to make sure that person will be the MP for Hamisi, the millennial or Gen Z. He doesn't need any money.
So Raila Ruto akileta pesa kwa ground wanakula.
Watu wanakula tu. Watu wanakula tu.
There you have it. We've been discussing matters to do with the 2027 elections and how different coalitions and parties are trying to streamline their strategies to clinch power when that time comes. And also nuggets of wisdom from Herman Manyora on how better Raila can recalibrate his political style, and also President William Ruto, among others. Key players in Kenya's political scene. Until we meet next time on Richard Mwenje Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Keep this conversation beyond here. I'm at Mwenje Richard on X and on TikTok as well. Get Herman Manyora on X and on TikTok at H Manyora. See you then.